Tyrone Willingham to Stanford to play for the Stanford Cardinal as a football player. Well, that's the way he went out there, and as a redshirt freshman, made such an impact that he's in this book. If any of you ever read anything, this is Return to Glory by Alan Grant, and it talks about Notre Dame's return to notoriety after they hit bottom. Nick's responsible for the bottom. Let me read you just one little passage. With over 7 minutes left in the game, Bob Davies' team was leading Stanford 13-3. It was 3rd and 10, and the Cardinal had the ball on its own 19-yard line. Stanford had no chance. Well, they weren't supposed to have a chance. But after Stanford quarterback Randy Fasani threw a strike to receiver Nick Sebes for a 46-yard gain, something strange happened. Stanford took over, went on to win that game. It later prompted Davey to say, that's when the Notre Dame program hit rock bottom. Aaron, I'm sorry about that, but that's just the way it is. That's the way it was, and Nick did it. Don't look at me. Anyway, he played 3 years of football at Stanford and obviously had a great career, led the team in kick returns as a junior. But it was in track that I think he surprised everyone. If you go on the Stanford website, look at the track records, his 4x1 team and 4x4 team still have 4 of the top 10 times ever at Stanford. His 400-meter time is the 3rd best time ever at Stanford. Indoors, same thing, top times. He was an All-American on an indoor distance medley team. And, I mean, we're talking about Stanford. We're not talking Susquehanna or Lycoming. I'm not putting them down. We're talking Stanford. 7 varsity letters in a Division I sport, Division I program that's one of the best in the country. So he graduates from Stanford with a Bachelor of Arts in Human Biology. I'm going to just divert myself a little bit. We've had players that have gone to the Pac-10. Dan Ficca, Phil Klaus, among others, that have earned a Pac-10 degree. We have Colin Menepace, John Skinner, Tommy Vershinsky, that earned a Big Ten degree. And we've had guys like John Veach, Gary Hawanik, Judge Sakavage go to the Ivy League and get an Ivy League degree. Nick has all 3. He has a Bachelor of Arts from Stanford. He has a Master of Nutrition from Columbia and his medical doctorate degree from Michigan. I don't know if it gets any better than that. The thing I remember most about Nick, I'm going to digress again. During that sophomore year, Nick ran 9 races at the state meet in 2 days and ended up with 3 medals and leading that team to the state championship. And without Nick Sebes, Mount Carmel wouldn't have a state track championship. But Nick is more than an athlete. Nick's a great guy. He's accepted a position at Geisinger now in dermatology, where he completed his residency at Michigan. He's married, Carrie's here with him today. He has 2 little girls, and he was very proud of, and I'm very proud of, and I hope we all give him a nice Mount Carmel welcome to our speaker today, Nick Sebes.
Thank you, Jose, for the introduction, the Rotary Club and its officers, for having me here today, Coach Dara, his staff. Most importantly, thank you to the 2015 Red Tornadoes. We're here to celebrate you and your accomplishments this season. To the graduating seniors who have given 4 years to the program, you've helped bolster its legacy as we remain #1 in the state for all-time wins. It's something I think our entire community is very proud of. Thank you for all you've done. As many of the Mount Carmel football alumni who have done in the past, you've inspired a generation of Red Tornadoes to play with the pride and conviction we're all accustomed to. I think back to why I started to play football. I know a lot of it had to do with the '94 Red Tornado team. Mike Higgins is a part of it. They went on to win the first state championship in the history of our Story program. The win reached everyone in our community, and up to that point, I never played organized football, partly because my parents wouldn't allow it. But up until that point, you know, it wasn't part of what I did. And as I entered 8th grade at Mount Carmel, I knew football was something I had to be a part of. I was fortunate to play at Mount Carmel in the midst of our state championship run. I rode that wave of success like many of us did, inspired by those that played before us, the community that believed in us, and our teammates who demanded nothing but our absolute finest. We used to say 40 for 48, kind of as before the game we broke our huddles. 40 players for 48 minutes. A count on me mentality that we all had. Our football family united to take on any opponent, and it's been over 15 years since graduating from Mount Carmel, and it feels like yesterday. I remember vividly wins over Southern Columbia, the Coal Bucket games against Shamokin, and of course, who can forget the '98 state championship game for Shadyside. Yesterday, my wife took our kids out for the day so their daddy can work on his speech for today's banquet. And I'll be honest, you're very thoughtful, Carrie. I love you, but I spent most of the day watching Mount Carmel football highlights. So I blame YouTube if this speech falls short of expectations. And as I watched highlights from the '98 state title game against Shadyside, a few things stood out. The game was obviously one-sided, as exemplified by a score of 44-7. Even our fans bested theirs, as when you watch the tape, you can see our fans outnumber theirs probably 5 or maybe even 10 to 1. It was like watching a football blockbuster, a Friday Night Lights type of experience. And I can picture the rows of buses taking off for Hershey from Mount Carmel, filled with eager fans ready to watch their beloved Red Tornadoes play. And that's what makes this community great. Devotion, endless support, contagious enthusiasm for their team. And thinking back on our team, that defensive front, which was probably one of the finest in Mount Carmel history, managed to sack Shadyside's quarterback 7 times and held their highly touted running game to minus 14 yards. I remember the Sinkovich brothers, Jay Malakowski, Cuffin Daukus, Jeff Evans, Terry Meyer at linebacker, Chesney Van Doren, Lantini. That defense was awesome. I don't think anyone can sort of refute that. Our offense really didn't have to do much to win the game, but we did anyway. John Veach rushed for 144 yards and 3 touchdowns. Al Bailey scored a touchdown. And all started with our huge and aggressive offensive line anchored by John L. Shuey, Mike Cinco, to name a few. Shadyside Academy's coach Art Walker, and I was reading some of the sort of newspaper articles before the game. I went back and read some of the archives. Art Walker commented before the game and said in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, "Their line is like a college line, and they're not fat." Maybe true, maybe not. They must have a good weight program up there because they're all put together pretty well. And we did. We all worked very hard in the weight room, and I know you guys do as well. The team made my job as quarterback easy. And although I won Player of the Year that year, I felt at that time, and as I do now, that the award was more of a reflection of our team's accomplishments than what I personally had done out on the field. I was surrounded by talented young men, some of the hardest workers I have ever known. And that's how Mount Carmel is. Our football family has had a number of accomplished athletes, but what's more impressive is the teams that have come through over the years. Grounded in a tradition of grit and determination, fueled by pride in what we are and what we represent, and backed by a community that bleeds tornado red. I want to acknowledge a few people here with me today. My beautiful wife here, Carrie, mother of my 2 daughters, Ava and Arbor. My mother is here, my grandfather, and I know my father would have been here today, but instead he joins us in spirit, and we miss you, Dad. For you young guys in the audience, don't for a second take for granted all your parents, grandparents, and siblings do for you. I didn't really understand it until I became a parent myself. A few months ago, I took my 3-year-old daughter to one of her ballet classes. 3-year-olds, ballet class, pink everything. It's what every guy, dreams of. But really, I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change it for the world. That's my life now, and I really do cherish it. And I'm not going to lie, a 3-year-old ballet class is basically 30 minutes of chaos, but my 3-year-old knew I was there. She was proud, confident, and motivated. That's what parents do, give you the encouragement and confidence you need. It was a time like that that I think back to all the track meets, every football game that my family attended, always my biggest supporters. My mom may not have been the biggest fan of letting me play football, but throughout the process, she helped guide me. And with football, as well as academics, that brought amazing opportunities my way. It's impossible to always see eye to eye with your parents, but I can guarantee when football is a distant memory, your parents will fondly remember the day you received your first trophy, scored your first touchdown, or won your big game. They're with you through the highs and lows. They feel your excitement with victory and know your disappointment and defeat. They're the ones who cleaned your gear, kept up with your growing appetite, tried to keep you out of trouble. Today, when all is done, thank your parents. As you're committed to your sport, your parents are committed to you, as well as your personal development. You're all capable of great things. Of course you are. You're from Mount Carmel. As you sit here, wide-eyed, young adults ready to take on the world, know and trust that you have people around you who will do anything they can and will to help you along the way. Use your resources. For me, it was 2 sports in college, football July through December, track January through June, competing and traveling nearly every weekend. That's difficult on its own, and then when you throw in a full academic course load, pre-med courses, it's near psychotic. I couldn't have done it without encouragement from my family and the support that I had. No matter what direction life takes you, remember you have people on your side. You have a community of supporters. And Mount Carmel is as much a part of me now as it was 15 years ago. I'm reminded of that fact frequently. As a dermatologist, I see maybe 30 patients a day, some more, some days less. But you'd be surprised how many patients ask, "Are you Nick Sebes from Mount Carmel?" The football player. It happens almost weekly. And the funny thing is, many of them aren't from Mount Carmel. They're from Danville, Bloomsburg, Selinsgrove, Catawissa, you name it. Next thing I know, I'm 30 minutes behind with a waiting room full of patients because I'm reliving the glory days of Cole Region football with a patient I've never met. It happens all the time. Football matters. Mount Carmel football matters. It's had a positive impact in all of our lives. I've been to several banquets, football, track, high school, and college, and had my share of graduation speeches. In 2005, as I was graduating from Stanford, Steve Jobs gave our commencement address. Do you young guys know who Steve Jobs was? Okay. For the young folks in the crowd, Steve Jobs was a visionary, co-founder, chairman, and CEO of Apple. His speech at our graduating class had a theme: do what you love. He said, the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do. The only way to do great work is to love what you do. In other words, find your passion or be open to let it find you. It can lead you to places you never imagined. Your passion right now may be to play football. If it is, great. That's what will make Coach Dara and his staff happy. As you look on to next season, play each snap with that fearlessness of youth that many of us in the crowd wish we still had. Have fun with your teammates. Establish those lasting relationships with your friends. Remember that your parents, your family, and all of us are your biggest fans and supporters. And as always, go Big Red.